so before we talk about Wake Up Dead Man, let's just share some quick thoughts on that Street Fighter trailer that dropped Thursday night. But I tagged a whole bunch of people, yourself included, on Friday morning. Yeah. All right. So I'll start off with how people reacted to it, how people have been reacting to it since it came out, right? They talk about it too goofy, and it's just basically going against what the game is and what the game has been about since it came out, right? Personally, I think the style works. I think it is style over substance. That's the point of it. For me, what just talking quickly about the trailer, right? For me, the thing that I always go back to is just that music. There's something about those like 70s horns that like every time I hear it, I just get riled. I just get excited because it reminds me oddly enough of like Kill Bill, like that Ironside theme. So that that you hear in Kill Bill Volume 1, I get that vibe. The moment I hear it, I'm thinking 70s grindhouse Yakuza stuff, right? And even had the goal to use some of that stylized like martial arts, like that zoom in, I think they do on Ryu on one scene, right? Or Ryu, whatever you want to call him, right? Yeah, they do that kung fu zoom, as I call him, that they do.
Yeah.
I like that, right? So you can tell that they pull in a lot from just action cinema, right? Martial arts cinema, they're doing that, right? And then, of course, when they lead into that Beastie Boys song, I know it's probably a Beastie Boys song for all I know, but it feels like it's either a song that they did like late in their career, or they just work in some sample of their vocals into the song. But I just like that. I just like that as the fight music that they use throughout the trailer now. I absolutely fucks with, right? The casting, yes, is a head scratcher. I know people making fun of Cody Rhodes' hairdo, because he playing Guile. I didn't mind. I just find it kind of funny, I wish that we saw Blanca do.
I find Guile is perfect.
Okay.
The only one that bothered me, Guile is perfect, but the only one that I know everybody like getting mad over the I don't know him, like I don't follow him. He's some kind of political comedy guy. He's fellow playing Dan.
I don't know who he is. There's some newbies in it and I'm actually glad, right, that there's some there's some actors that I've never seen before.
No, right. So he known for like being a political commentary kind of guy. Well, he's a comedian, but I don't know him as a comedian. I just know him as a podcast person. And he had a little back and forth. I remember he gained some trouble with Kendrick Lamar. Remember that was a kind of a thing for 2 seconds, and I was like, "Oh, this guy's supposed to be funny," and I didn't follow that. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. It's up in my mind right now. Where's that dude? If you know who it is.
Okay. Don't hurt your head over it, right? Right.
Yeah, so he's like everybody not getting mad over. We say, "Oh, well, he's a deal breaker. They don't want to watch him because he's MAGA or something like that." Like, all right, this is so. I don't know enough about him to care. Well, the other one is 50.
Yes.
50 have layers. 50 have layers to it, because I making the joke that, well, he played Bison. Not Bison, sorry. Well, or in Japanese it was Bison, but who is based off of Tyson, played Balrog. And remember, Tyson rough up Diddy back in the days now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, you have layers to the jokes. I can imagine people making joke about that.
Yeah, and because he had to mention what happened, the event that led to Tupac's death. Yes, it was a Tyson fight, right? So there you go. It's layers, right? Yeah.
It's layers. It's real layers.
Yeah, I enjoy the trailer. It's short, it's sweet,
right.
It's to the point, it is incredibly goofy, it's wild, it's silly, it's over the top, and I'm like, yeah, this is exactly what it is I want, right? The release date is what I'm kind of interested now, because this is coming out in October 16th, right? And with the Mortal Kombat 2, it's been pushed to sometime in February. Right. I think it's probably after Valentine's Day, for all we know, right? But last point I'll make, right, is that alright, so 2 things. One, I am not going into Street Fighter expecting some Oscar-worthy masterpiece, right? I am just expecting a movie that has one simple job and one simple job only. Make a better film than the 94 film. That is easy. That's simple enough to do, right? I'm saying this because next year we're supposed to be getting Mortal Kombat 2, right? Which I have low expectations for, but like, listen, after the first one was absolute trash, there's nowhere else to go but up, right? And I say that because the first film, right, which came out in 2020, right, I have to remind myself of that, right, had one job, make a better film than the 1995 film. It failed miserably in that, right? So Mortal Kombat 2 now with its self-awareness, in quotes, could, you know what I mean? Again, there's nowhere else to go but up, right? So I'm just hoping that it is better than the first film, right? 2026 is shaping up to be a very interesting year, right? Because we now have 3 video game movies to look out for. We have Mortal Kombat 2, which is coming out sometime in February, I think. We have the Super Mario Galaxy movie, I'm not sure when that's coming out. And then we have Street Fighter, which is coming out on October 16th, right? So if those 3 films make a ton of money, then that means Hollywood will be more confident to put out more competent, more polished, video game movies, and not like, oh, by the way, this guy want to make a video game movie like that on Until Dawn film that I haven't seen, but I heard a lot of bad things about it. I don't even care to see it, to be honest.
I mean, we kind of growing past the UV Bowl stuff and thing, so it's moving on from that. But I don't know. As I said, the only issue with this movie for me is just the casting. The casting kind of weird. The worst is Bison. Again, like the actor, we call him Polka Dot Man. But he does so fit with this at all. Like, it's kind of baffling when he's a baffling choice, and I really want to see what they're going to do with him.
You know what's so weird about that guy being cast? It's clear like they want to tap into that Raul Julia energy now, but at the same time, it's like, you don't need to do that. Like Bison is an intimidating guy. I don't know why Raul was cast to begin with. I don't know or care, but it's like, why would you cast Polka Dot Man to play the big body of, Street Fighter though?
Yeah. I see people Photoshop and say, well, it should have been John Cena or whatever it was. Which is, I suppose, is a better look. You get more wrestlers to come through with this kind of thing now because you need the body type now. And all these characters looking overly muscular. And now the Street Fighter animated movie whole thing is that everybody's overly muscular. So that was that. But I don't know. I want to see where you're gonna go. Oh, Andrew Schultz, that's your guy's name.
Oh right, yeah, that guy, yeah.
Right. So that's everybody can. That's the one thing that, from what I understand, is a big deal breaker for a bunch of people. I don't know enough about the man to care. I hear he's like some big kind of right winger. I'm not sure. So I don't know what's going on with him. Anyway, he played Dan, and I'm like, oh, Dan in this, and that is a kind of funny character. We call it Eric Andre in this. Like, all right, I want to see what they're going with.
Who's he playing again? He's not playing.
I don't think he played a fight. He played a character who's in his side. I forget the character, but he's a relatively new character. But the thing with this is that if you're playing with the aesthetic of the old Street Fighter, it had to evolve into the new aesthetic. That's what I kind of want. Like, I want him to play more like how Street Fighter 4 and 5 is play, and then maybe you could pull from the Arika games, for example, and do that now. So it's because Street Fighter evolved over the years, and I don't want first decade Street Fighter stuff. I want more second decade Street Fighter stuff in the 2000s in particular and the 2010s. Play with that and go with that. So like it's more Street Fighter EX2 Plus, also Street Fighter 3, and then Street Fighter the 4, 5, and maybe 6, right? And that look, if they could start pulling into those characters and just tell a more interesting story and just write a really good script, I could get that. You don't have to play with the classic stuff, but who they cast for the 3 core characters, which is Guile, Chun-Li, and Ken, and then Ryu, those 4, that 4 core, those are great. I have no problem with that. The Guile, Chun-Li, Ken, and Ryu, perfect. Like I love the casting for the 4 of those. They're looking great. And if they make the action work for what it is, it don't make it too silly. Just make it kind of like Mortal Kombat and they balance it. I think they can make it work for what it is. Visually, it's a lot more interesting than expected. I was expecting complete garbage. I'm like, well, I might want to watch this. I'm not sure. Like, we'll see. But the other cater to, I think, my favorite aesthetic in Street Fighter was the 2000s aesthetic, which was mostly Street Fighter 3, and then the EX games. Like, I love the EX games, especially EX2 Plus. But I really want to see if they can pull from that energy, it could work. Right? I'm excited for it. Looking okay.
All right, so I just have one more question before we move forward, right? Do you think that with this show's effort so far to make it as authentic to the game as possible, right? Will we get like the actual moves, right? Or are they just gonna double back and be like, no, we can't do that because Hollywood, they don't understand what Sonic Boom is. No. We just stick to martial arts then,
they understand the audience. Because that was a mistake that the original film made. Right? It was like, they just do a thing that kind of like the thing, that kind of like the thing. And again, old filmmakers was just obsessed with like realism for some reason, and what they call realism at least. That kind of nonsense. Look, it's the same mindset behind the black leather stuff for X-Men, right? Like it, look, no, embrace the material. People like that bullshit. Like you have to know your audience. And the whole thing is just cater to what a fan like. If you know what they could do, they had to do like fan things. So if they do the whole Daigo blocking thing, if you know what that is, look up Daigo. This is dude who's is probably most famous like one of the most famous event in competitive Street Fighter, where this dude just block a bunch of combo and do a counter combo. They had to do shit like that. They have to do shit like that, like stuff like that. You play, you're not only play into the games and the experience of the game. You play to famous fan moments in the competitive scene or amongst the fan base. Now. Like I hope they do something like that. Like that'll be smart. But yeah, I don't know. Like I just want to see what they're gonna do with it and make it work. It had to be funny. That's the main thing. It had to be funny. It had to be fun. Like I still think Paul W.S. Anderson nailed Mortal Kombat the original. And like it had to be like at least that. Like if they could do that and pull it off and make it work, then I'm happy with that. But like for me, yeah, again, the 2000s stuff is where you had to do with it. The really colorful stuff. Again, the Alpha series was solid. The 3 series was solid. Like yeah, you could bring in Sean, make characters like that. Or Elena or Makoto, like stuff like that, and then the 3D stuff, and then make that work. And cater to the 2000s era and the 2010 era gaming thing and keep that as colorful and as lively as you can. And yeah, it'll work. Bring in, like, a surprise DJ in this. Like, he's a great character. Instead, again, I forget who the Joanna man, I forget the actor who played DJ the original.
What this way? Oh gosh, and we mentioned him in our review of that film, boy. The name escapes me right now, but yeah.
Yeah. He was terrible. Like they get him. Like what the hell? Like get like an actual like funny muscular black dude. It could be Terry Crews. Like I sure Terry Crews could be DJ. But like get a real Jamaican. Like get a real Jamaican. Make that work. That would be funny. Like listen, they didn't even like get somebody like Usain Bolt to play DJ.
Imagine that though.
But it could work. It could work because it's like you don't want to get an actor. You just want to get somebody just being an ass and is a real Jamaican. That's it. Like that's the character. Even though DJ is like a muscular character, so like you said, well, too lanky for it, but like you get the point, right? Something like that. But you get my point. You have somebody muscular, he's an actual Jamaican, he can pull off the accent, have an accurate enough accent, and then make him funny. Like stuff like that. Like bring the energy now. Yeah, but like as I say, video game movies hopefully will come into its own. Like I'm still not super impressed with it. But like the stuff that really work, and you had to understand the kind of borderline absurdity of video games. It's the borderline surrealism of playing a video game and how there's a kind of disconnect between the real world and the video game and the idea of playing a video game. And you had to play with that. You had to know understand that connection to make it work. And the Street Fighter games always like was in a good place to play with that. So you have to have good action, but you also have to have a strange surrealness of it now, and play with like a conceit that you only somebody who actually play the games will play with. Like Fallout coming out just now, and I've always said that the characters could like use drugs to make it look like it was a glitch in the game, because there's a lot of glitches in the Fallout franchise. Stuff like that. You're playing with the conceit of what would uniquely be a video game thing. And yeah, I can still make money one way or the other, because that Mario movie make a ton of cash. We call it the not Lego thing, the Minecraft.
Right, yeah.
Now make a ton of cash. So it's like, they know, once you know the audience and play with it and you play with fan stuff, because I know they made an homage to somebody who's a famous Minecraft player who died from cancer, and they reference him. It's like, shit like that is go a long way. So I really, really hope they do fan stuff that only the fans know, but a generation of people who, as filmmakers coming up, will know this as well. Because Daigo is like close to 20 years now. I think Daigo is a hot minute. It's a hot minute since I forget when Daigo came out. That was like 2005. So that by now, that should be like well within the popular consciousness of Street Fighter as in the culture. So you play with that and make it work. I don't know. I just again, I hope the Street Fighter actual creators that is ahead of the curve on this one. A couple of weird, baffling choices, here or there, but for the most part, it looking interesting enough. I want to see if they could pull it off. And I had to sit down and just workshop them ideas and make them work. But yeah, at least I hope it'll be at least the level of the W.S. Anderson movie with the original Mortal Kombat and the animated movie. Like if we get a live action version of the animated movie or do something like that, I can be happy with that.
Yeah. So my hope is that they don't delay the release of the film like what they did with Mortal Kombat, right? Because remember, before we move on, right? Remember Mortal Kombat 2 was supposed to come out before Halloween, and then they pushed it to January. My hope is that they don't do that with I'll tell you why. That they do that with Street Fighter. Because if Street Fighter is a success, and I really want it to be, all people cosplaying like dress up like that for Halloween, dog. Like pick your favorite character and dress up like that for Halloween, dog. Boom, yeah.
Exactly. What frustrating is that there are a lot of people. I was just straight. Not a lot of people who just doing it for a paycheck. Now a lot of people look at that. That's a good and important thing on its own right. But there are a lot of people who have just no business doing a lot of this stuff. Like that Mortal Kombat thing was so baffling in terms of like the decision making. None of it worked and none of it made a lick of sense. Like that was the problem with it now. And like, who are you doing this for? Like you just want a job now. Like it just really feel like that. And like you know how to do this, right? You really know how to do this. So give it to somebody who love the material and make it work now. And look, I forget who's the director of this. It's somebody I know.
Well, I don't know the guy's name, but you know the Eric Andre show better than me. He's a guy who worked on that show. I forget his name. He's an Asian guy.
Yeah.
He's an Asian guy.
Yeah, no, it's guy who directed Eric Andre a bunch of episodes, right? That's why I'm excited for this. Because it's a guy who have like that potential creative freedom. This is like that fella doing Random Acts of Flyness. It's like if that guy actually got the chance.
Like, him.
He should have done Space Jam. And
right. I was about to say. Yeah.
Right, and I would argue that if he got the chance to do Space Jam properly, Space Jam would have been much more interesting and memorable than what we got. Right? Don't get no working actor, no working director thing.
Sorry, for those who don't know, we talking about Space Jam 2, the one that came out in 2021. Right, that was utter garbage.
Don't give no working director who don't have no energy and way too old and don't really have any day. No, give somebody young. If the person really giving trouble, look, younger people, they're gonna give trouble like that boy who do give you fan for stick, right? You run the chance of a weird asshole, but that's part of it. You give somebody who have the energy. That's why I'm excited for the Street Fighter, because somebody who clearly modern, have a sense of modernity, taking the last 20 years into account, not acting as if it's still fucking 1994. Right, and that's why I'm excited for it, because the guy who directed Eric Andre crew. That's why Eric Andre is like, right. That's why I'm excited for this, because have somebody who actually have modern sensibilities and energy. That's why I want to see this, because they really they grew up with video games. Good. Yeah, you need that. Not some like again tired of these old assholes who have no sense, and again they still think it's 1994. That way, again, that's such a fucking bullshit. No, you bring the energy. I want to see it. Let go. Like so, yeah, I'm excited for this.
Right. So now we can finally move on to Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery, right? I'll do the synopsis for this quickly, right? Because of the nature of the show, I don't want to give out too much details, right? So this is the third film in the Knives Out series, right? Which, for me, I would say has gotten considerably better with every installment, right? Like Knives Out, the first one, I enjoyed it, right? I was not in love with it, but I enjoyed it, right? I felt like this was how you modernize the murder mystery, right? Because when it came to murder mystery films, like in the late 2010s, into the 2020s, it was always like the Hercule Poirot, of how you pronounce the name. It was always like a period piece. It's always like, okay, we need to do the period piece thing, especially even with Sherlock Holmes. They're talking about the Hollywood films, not the BBC, show. We also have to do it as a period piece, right?
Kenneth Branagh one, right? Branagh one.
Yeah, that one, right? But this one was like, okay, I never got on board with those films for whatever reason. Right. I really should.
The last one wasn't half bad. Like I really like the last one because we just trying to do and see,
right?
In terms of the ideas, but I like this one. I slightly like them about these movies, to be honest. But
okay.
They work for what they are, but this one, it's still good. I still enjoy these what they are.
Yeah, and I think for me the sell is Rian Johnson, right? Because I absolutely love what he did with The Last Jedi. It's like, oh, this man doing murder mystery, and I know that he directed.
We had him with Poker Face now, so
right. Exactly. Yeah, him. Right. I love the fact that he was just able to branch out with that show. It's a shame. Just a little segue. It's a shame that that show got cancelled after. Well, right. I think the second and best season. I hear in scuttlebutt that they want to move the show to another network and recast, Lily Lead and put Peter Dinklage. Or like Peter Dinklage?
Right. I don't know what the hell going on there because I don't know like what the references are. Like I sure it's some fake out or something like that. Because it is kind of baffling to me that they would get rid of her that way. Like does she have like way more power behind the scenes as a producer? So it's kind of baffling to me. That'll be the case. But whatever. We'll see what's going on with that. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's some fake out, some crap.
Yeah, we'll see, right? But I was thoroughly surprised at how great Glass Onion was, right? Which we talked about in December of 2022. That was actually one of my favorite films of that year, right? So yeah, here we are with Wake Up Dead Man. I was hearing a lot of great things about it, but I was waiting for it to drop on Netflix, and it finally did. So what is about in a nutshell? Again, murder mystery, don't want to give away too much, right? So smartly starts off by giving you actually not giving the impression. He is technically the protagonist of the show, right? A guy by the name of Judd Duplessis, right, who is played
Right.
brilliantly by Josh O'Connor, right? And
Yes.
he is this Catholic priest. We learn that he was a former boxer. He beat a guy to death, and he
Right.
explains
Kill
why
someone.
later on. Yeah, he killed
Yeah.
someone, and now he finds penance in the church, right, in the Catholic church, right. So yeah, he
Right.
is pretty much assigned to be the assistant pastor at this parish called Our Lady of Perpetual Fortitude, and the guy who running it is Monsignor Jefferson Wicks, who is played brilliantly by Josh Brolin. I had to watch this man face like, dog, that's you? Like, swear to God, there were times I didn't know it was him, you know. I didn't know it was him, right? And they set up right out the gate that Jefferson's an asshole. Like, he's a straight up asshole. He's a dick. But he uses his power of being, he has power, he has control, he has sway over his audience, or I should say the congregation, right? And there's particular individuals, members of that congregation, that are singled out in the story, right? They are varying characters. Sorry, there's various characters involved too, right? And each one has their own backstory. And I love how in this first act, right, you get the details as to who these characters are and whatnot, right? No surprise to anyone here. Yeah, Jefferson gets murdered, right? But you're not sure why and what going on, right? But it's how it's set up too, because it's like this locked door murder. I think that's what it's called, right? Where he basically goes inside of a particular room and he's killed inside there, right? So the question is, how he get killed is if nobody else was there, right? So of course, our boy Benoit Blanc comes into the story literally in the second act of the story, right? And I love that. Actually, I have to applaud Ryan's writing here, right? Because you could say, and I know that there will be people who be kind of put off, like, wait, Ben was supposed to be the lead in this. Like, why are we now showing him? It's like, no, actually, it's Judd. It's Judd's story, and it's justified why, right? So yeah, Benoit comes in, and I love that he just set up just right out the gate. Yeah, I'm an atheist, man. I not really into this. And then, as we found out in Glass Onion, he's queer as well. So it's like, yeah, this religion thing is just not for me, right? So Judd is like, well, I understand. I love that how he's framed compared to Jefferson, where it's like, listen, I know you're going through a little trouble, and that when it comes to the other, let's just say the suspects involved, right? It's like, I trying to reach to you, I'm not trying to force feed my feet down your throat, our feet basically. I just want us to be on some kind of common ground here, right? Even though some of them on bullshit, it's just like, listen, I just want to work with you, you know what I mean? But because of Jefferson's death now, they feel a kind of way about it. And there's one particular individual who is played by Glenn Close, right, who actually worked with his father, right, with Jefferson's father, right, Prentice, before he died, right, and they do something very, very clever with her, right, without spoiling too much. They kind of tell you that she is technically the main suspect, but because Judd was around, the media and everybody pretty much pointing the finger at Judd now and saying, oh, it's you. And it took me a hot minute to realize, oh, that's why he named that. Because one man say, oh, use the Judas now. It's like, oh, that's why he called Judd, Judas, right, right? So yeah, that's what we get here. It's just basically, who killed this guy, right? Who killed Jefferson? And is it really Judd? Even though Judd has this, these feelings inside like, boy, like, I'm glad he did it, because the man was a piece of shit. But at the same time, I didn't want him to die like this. It's like, why people singling me out? I didn't do nothing, right? And yeah, we just have this very, very, very well-made murder mystery that is built around faith, around belief, and about guilt, and how we are kind of drawn to religion because of guilt, or trying to stay away from it as best as we can, right? So I will get to my thoughts in a bit, right? I can ramble on about it, right? But yeah, Ricardo, with your experience, the Catholic faith and whatnot, I'll just throw this right out there before you start, right? I call this the conclave of murder mysteries. That's the best way I could solve that show. It is literally conclave, but through the guise of a murder mystery, Jed. So agree or disagree?
I kind of disagree. I mean, I really thought it would be this big send up of the Catholic Church and so on. So I was like, nah, you really get it. You guys thinking, oh, yeah, people going, and I seen people talking about they hang ups over the church and thing in like a couple of reviews and thing. No, like I had a friend, he's like this big rant about the church and how you feel about the church and da da da. I'm like, well, yeah, I suppose, but like I really thought it would have been more than that, and we didn't really get that. Like it was just a couple of moments of Glenn Black calling out the church, which is like correct. I don't have a problem with any of that. That nothing, no big complaints or whatever it is. But
No,
my attitude
I
was
honestly agree where he was coming from. I am that
right,
type
right,
of
right.
guy. You
I
know,
was
you
thinking,
have
oh,
your
it's gonna be
views. I
this.
respect that, right? So whatever. And I'm
Yeah,
not
no, I thought it
Catholic,
was
but
gonna be
whatever.
this
Moving
big.
on.
I thought it was gonna be this big send up on the Catholic Church, and we don't really get that. We get like a story, and the story is like is more characterization. Because it felt more like a direct insult to like American politics and American Catholicism, if anything, right? Because the character is kind of like a Trumpian kind of figure. You could argue or something like that. I thought it came across to me at least. What I'll say is that this is my least favorite Knives Out movies, even though I think it's the best movie.
Okay,
Like
okay.
this one I think is most like solid from a mystery standpoint in terms of writing. It don't have any as many plot holes. I thought the second one had some kind of weird, like kind of is that kind of weird inconsistency? Is that a thing? And you could go into that. But this one like is solid, and I like the script itself is really strong. But like because it took itself a little more serious than the other, it wasn't as funny. Like it could have been funnier for me. Whilst I find whilst two and one are very entertaining films, this one is like it can take itself a little more seriously, as it was. And that's about it. I was expecting something more like, wait, there's gonna be some big anti-religion thing. I was like, no, not really. We didn't really get her. And it's like, alright, cool. And I dug it for what it was, like the big reveal, the actual answers where they answer all the questions and who, the how, the why. All of these things were answered like reasonably well. It's like, oh yeah, cool. And you move on from there. But that's it. I didn't super love this, but I liked it enough. And I thought the mystery. I think another thing too is I felt the mystery could have been the revealed, like the actual crime, like why it was done. Could have been a little more interesting, but it was fine. Like I dug it for what it was. That was about it.
All right, all right, all right. Well, that's pretty interesting, right? I'm not gonna make this a debate, but I genuinely love this film thread. This is my
Right,
favorite of the Knives Out series, right? For me, this
right,
feels
right,
the most personal. Like this feels like I think it is true, right? Like Ryan was really pulling from his own upbringing.
right,
Like I believe
right,
he was brought up in the Catholic faith, right? And just
right,
like Conclave, I love that the show is not like trying to tear down the Catholic faith or whatnot, right? It's not like talking down to say that it's terrible, but it's kind of calling it out on it's, let's just say, it's archaicness at times, right? And just in
right, right,
general
right.
in terms of
No,
religion and how it's used, how people could twist it and make it
yeah, yeah.
fit their
No, it
modus
balances.
their modus operandi, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it balances that conceit reasonably well. But like again, because of again Josh Whedon's character named Monsignor Wicks. So his character, I like his character a lot. Like I like what he's trying to like the idea behind him and why people followed him. I like how that's good characterization. Even though he's like a bastard, and they explain a lot of him, his hypocrisy, what they try to do. They put the main character in some interesting spaces. Like you thought he was drinking something, and you thought that was relevant to some another character. And I like what they do with that. And it's little small things that they play with. But I didn't feel like it was that like engaging or interesting as a conceit. But I get it. Like if you're not familiar with these ideas or arguments, it's like okay, I get why it might well work for you, as it is though. That's about it. It's good, and it is an interesting space if you're not familiar with Catholic ideas or the church or whatever it is. And well, we get a little probably my favorite character. This is a little side character, but we get a little James Bond little reunion um with with Jeffrey Wright. Um,
Right. Yes. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
gosh, I did pick up
yeah,
on that. Yeah. From
yeah, yeah.
the Daniel Craig Bond era. Yes. You're right.
Right, right, right. And yeah, so we get him, and we get that's the idea of just normal people have to handle the situation. Little good side people, and it's like Mila Kunis was in it. She was pretty good. Who else were you? Right, you say you
Thomas
going to
Hayden Church though. I didn't expect to see he
yes.
in that. I was like,
That's
oh, I
the
knew
thing
this.
I pick up is like it's him.
Yeah, I
He
did
went,
pick up it was him too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then Hawkeye
Yeah,
pretty good in
Hawkeye
this.
was there. His character though.
How
That all I'll say.
how they
His
resolve
character.
him how they resolve him is pretty good too. Like it's
It
good stuff.
was.
But again, it didn't like rope me in like it's I think the mystery itself wasn't that interesting. It's more the why. I think the part of it. So if you're into the why, like it works if you're a Catholic or a Catholic who figured. But it does work in terms of like the whole one side or the other and how it ends. And then well the ending that final shot is great. Involving the main well you could see the main
I
MacGuffin and the
love
poison.
that
Yeah,
final shot. Boy, that's brilliant to know.
yeah. I
And
I
layers on
wondered
top of that too, eh? I love it.
I wondered because well we know it's very expensive, right? So I wondered where they do it though. and where it going. It's like, all right, fine. And then they play with that and then they make it work at the end. It's like, all right, that's really, really funny stuff. Yeah, it's well structured, it's well made. I dig it a lot, but I don't know, I couldn't get into it as some kind of super interesting, like what the mystery is. Like it wasn't that interesting. It didn't blow my mind, and I felt I needed more on that category of it. But like I suppose it's more about the characterization aspect of it, so that's why it is not that big of a deal. It's fine. But yeah, ultimately I just felt the mystery and the resolution could have been more interesting. It just kind of didn't wow me as much the last two films. Like I thought the last two films, the reveals were much more interesting reveals than this one. But this one was fine. Like it's like I suppose I kind of guess it too. Like it's like, oh, I think it's this character, and like, yeah, I was kind of right, and like, I think it's this character because of this reason. Because they kind of sell out to me. Like, okay, that person number one on my list, so I kind of guess it. I know, you're not supposed to engage in the material in this way, but like, I kind of couldn't help myself, but like, oh yeah, right, this character not to say this thing, and like, alright, cool. Like, and I got accustomed to Rian Johnson's writing in that way, so like, I suppose it's that. But that's about it. I didn't hate this. I didn't hate this. I wanted to love it, but I just really liked it. Really, really liked it. So that's about that. It's a good score because I think it's the best made of the three, in my humble opinion.
All right, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I mean you don't have to love it, right? You know that's fine, right? And I will admit, right? Yes, I knew who the perpetrator was. And I like that the show was kind of telling you just straight from the jump, is this person though? But is the why? And I kept like asking myself, why? And as I love how the show just sort of balances out, right? As the story progresses and that character shows back up, is like, yeah, but why? And then when it's revealed, it's like, I just love the fact that it is more from a moral perspective, right? Again, as I said, it's guilt, right? It's guilt that drives a majority of these characters to do what they do or to withdraw the way they withdraw, right? So I love that, right? I do agree with you. Very well shot. I thought that the writing was strong throughout, though, just the dialogue, the characterization, all that kind of stuff. And in true, Nice Out style, I love that we are given this, like, all these characters, and you're not sure how they all fit, but somehow Rian fits them into the narrative, right?
But it have some okay, like, funny moments at parts like that yeah, like Kerry Washington and what with her son put in quotes is really funny stuff. Stuff like that. And then his character I liked a lot. Like he's just this cynical actor, like what he's supposed to be. Like I think is that character supposed to be JD Vance or something like that. I'm not sure.
Well,
But
it
like
could be, though. It could be.
very political
Yeah.
and very specifically a certain way. And I thought it felt like to me now. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's right. That's all right. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, there are some political undertones to it too, but it's not too blatant. There's one outcome of a character. I was like, that makes so much sense. And that's all I'll say without spoiling anything. It just involves a certain character and the project that he was working on and how it played out for that character. I thought that how it ends make perfect sense, right? But there's one character, just talking quickly before as a wrap up here, there's one character who I felt was very understated, right? Kind of in the background, really, right? And I felt like what happens to that character in the end kind of sums up how Judd views religion, right? In terms of, like, listen, like, this thing isn't like, it's not like, as, we talked about umpteen times, right? It's not like it's not like a magic lamp. It's not like you rub it and you ask for a wish and it comes true. It's something that you either believe in or you don't believe in, right? But regardless of what you do, you still have to live your life. You still have to be resilient enough to just keep living your life.
Yeah.
Most importantly, to be a better person, not just be, trash because you've been wronged, you know what I mean? And that's why I love how, Jefferson's character is framed, right? And to me, he is like a brilliant antagonist in this, right? Because, just right from the gate, it's like, something wrong with this guy, Judd. He's a little too outworldly, you know what I mean? Yeah, high strung there, you know what I mean? But then as the show progresses, but it's like, listen, I hate this guy though. But I just love that performance so much, Judd. This is how he talks down to people, Judd. You know what I mean? This is unfuckwittable aspect about him, right? And even before that first act end, he is gonna be the victim, eh? He gonna get killed, eh?
Right.
And at the same time, you know who the suspect, who the main, who the murderer is, right? But it's just the question of why and how the show plays on that I love, right? But yeah, I mean, performances are strong throughout. I think Josh, I can't believe I'm saying this, right? I think this is why some people may not like this entry in the Knives Out series, right? This is not so much a Daniel Craig show, though. This is the
Right.
Josh's show, Dread. I thought that
Yeah,
Josh
yeah, yeah,
O'Connor
yeah, yeah.
and
It
Josh
hardly, it
Brolin,
hardly
two
focused
best
on.
characters in it. They were brilliant
Yeah,
in
it hardly
this.
focused on it. I was saying, I find the detective stuff not great. Like it's not bad, because like it's very easy to figure out. But the whole point is that, well, certain characters were hesitant. Because there's a great part of with Daniel Craig, and some light come on him, and then he dies,
Oh, yeah, I
and then
love that. I love
they
that. Yeah.
resolve, and then they finally. And it's a great moment, and I thought it was hilarious. And then they resolve it. Like how they resolve it is good stuff. Like I like that. Like it
Mm.
makes sense. Like resolving it that way.
Yeah, and
I like
even
that
and
game.
even
Like
his without spoiling much, right? Even his decision to say, "This is not for me to solve. This is for you
right,
to solve." I love that.
right. I like that.
Yeah, and,
I
and,
like
and
that.
I
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think to
I
me
think so.
that's why I enjoy this entry so much is because it does work as a murder mystery, right? But it's really about this guy who's wrestling with his feet, right? Who is put in this very challenging position where it's like, listen, people call me out now because of this murder. What do I do? How do I deal with it? God, can you save me, right? I see how that plays out, right? So as I said, I
Yeah.
felt that Josh O'Connor and Josh Brolin, they are the main protagonists and antagonists
Right.
in the show, and I thought that they were brilliant in
And
this, right?
it
But it
yeah,
is
if
still a Benoit Blanc film, but even though he's
right.
kind of pushed his side, he's not pushed too much to the side. So it is still his film, even though he's not the main protagonist. That's all I'll say. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they play, but it works. It still works mostly because of the American Catholicness of it, because it really splits. Like in the United States, American Catholics split down the middle politically. I think it's like roughly 50% Democrat and Republican, if I remember correctly. It plays with that. It plays with that a lot, and you can tell that this character is an allusion to this character, and so on and so forth. I find this was very political. Like in terms of its allusions, it felt very political. At least to me.
Yeah, I
And
felt it too. I didn't go too deep into it, and I love that the show didn't like come out and just say, "Oh, yes, he is meant to represent this person or that person or this representative, whatever it is." Right. One more thing before we get to rating, right? And as I mentioned before with Conclave, right? This is yet another show which I think brilliantly examines religion from a modern perspective. It's not
Right.
saying that we don't need it, like we do for better or for worse, right? But it's just like how it needs to progress, it needs to advance, it needs to move forward. It can't just be rigid and rudimentary, right? A lot of people,
Right.
a lot of people who claim they believe in God always think that things must be this particular way. It must always be this rudimentary way, right? But it's like, no, you need to kind of like look at the world around you and just kind of, advance with it too. You know what I mean? Not saying you shouldn't hold on to beliefs, right? But understand that all of us are just trying to live our lives. So it's not like we all, it's not like, because you don't believe in God or whatever it is, mean that you are some enemy, right? That's what really what I'm trying to say, right? But yeah, Conclave explored that in a very fascinating way, right? But this one, I didn't expect that this film would have touched on that. Like I knew about the whole Catholic stuff going into it, right? But I didn't know it was gonna go that in depth. Not too in depth, right? But in depth enough so you understand, the dilemma that the protagonist is going through, right? But still work it around a very entertaining and a very effective murder mystery. That kind of blew my mind. I really dug that, right? So yeah, no surprise for me. This is one of the best films I've seen this year. I let you all know this could be top 5 for me though, the more I think about it, right? I think for me it's just because there's so much to pull from it, Dread. This the way how the story was structured, how the characters were put together, Dread. There's a lot to pull from this, Dread. And yeah, it just sort of speaks to me, just the idea that a film like this could explore religion from a modern perspective. I love when films do that, right? So yeah, we have Conclave that came out last year, that was in your top 5, and yeah, here we have Wake Up Dead Man that could be in my top 5 too. So look at that, right? So yeah, mad points for Rian Johnson for saying, yeah, I want to touch on something that real personal to me, Dread, but I still want to give you the whole murder mystery goods, and you get that in this film, right? So for me, like the decent 4.5 out of 5. I really, 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 really enjoy this film, right? And I do hope to see more of these Knives Out series. And if all goes well, just speaking into just say this out to Daniel, he could have his own little, let me just say, post James Bond anthology series. You know what I mean? Like he could have his own series because yeah, he's done playing James Bond, right? If you saw No Time to Die, you know why, right? But this
Right.
could be like, hey, I could have my own little movie series too, right? And I don't have to be typecast as James Bond anymore, right? So it is what it is, right? But yeah, I am loving where this series is going so far, and I can't wait to see the next one, right? But Ricardo, your final thoughts on it?
Right. Again, the one thing about it is that it kind of reminds me of True Detective season 3, right, where the case don't really matter. It's about the person and the aspect of it. That's the thing. So that's why it don't bother me as much as I thought it could have. But yeah, I really thought that I really felt that it could have been more interesting. The actual conceit itself could have been much more interesting as a like a case. I really felt the case thing could have been more interesting. So that's about it. But I didn't hate this. Really good. I still give it a good score. Yeah, I don't know, rating. I don't know, 8 out of 10 probably, more, a little more than that. But yeah, so that's about it.